here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's going to be the turn of Andrew Tiny Wood, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love and poetry. Has been in various musical combos, including Ultrasound, and before that Sleepy People and Possession. And you'll find out more about his musical and creative life in this fascinating interview. So after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Andrew, it's over to you.
Well, I mean, I'm of a similar age to you, and glam rock was like a big part of my life because it was the first. It was kind of the first thing that it was ours, or it felt ours.
Yes.
Rather than beforehand, you were listening to your brother's music or your mum's music or whatever. But the very first music that I was conscious of that had an effect on me was the Beatles, early Beatles, because I weirdly remember the singles coming out, even though I'm only like one or two at this time.
Yes.
But I think it's possibly because my parents are both from that part of the world.
Right.
I didn't grow up in Liverpool. They kind of knew a lot of people that knew the Beatles, and they kind of knew, aunties and uncles and stuff. So I was kind of aware of them.
Yes.
My mum had them and would play them. So that I think I Want to Hold Your Hand kind of had a similar effect on me. You know, when people talk about it on documentaries and they say like it had this kind of like effect on a young brain that's almost indescribable. Well, I felt that too as well. So I was kind of a bit too young for the Beatlemania thing, but I was aware of them, and I was also aware of the effect that they had on you when you listen.
Yes. Well, it's interesting because I suppose there were the films that were around at times that one would catch when you're young. But one of the first songs that really had a massive impact, which I just got very excited by, was Step Inside Love by Cilla Black. And years later, I realised it was written by, either that was Paul and John, wasn't it, basically? But I can't remember which one. I mean, they're both credited, but I do remember being very like, wow. And I must have been very young at that stage because it was the Scylla show, but just being very like, God, wow, this is such a great dynamic song. It had the quiet bit, it had this kind of, I mean, it was like grunge really, but with Cilla Black singing. It just had that dynamicness. And then, my mum would be listen to Radio 2 in the kitchen, and you'd be there and, hearing all those sort of heartfelt songs by Burt Bacharach and then the Carpenters. I mean, those kind of songs that still have a massive impact on my life today. So, yes, that was it. But I had an older brother. So as I was getting through into the 70s period, he was into prog rock. So it was those kind of albums that I would sneak into his room and listen to.
Yeah,
And
we have a very similar life. I grew up listening to him. Charles Aznavour was an influence I got from my mum.
Right.
Tapestry's Dreams album I still love, and my brother was prog, so that's how I kind of got into prog in the initial days. My brother was a big fan of David Bowie. He had a lot of. Not only did he have David Bowie stuff, but he also had Mick Ronson and the Lou Reed one that he produced.
Yes,
So
Transformer.
David Bowie was on. He would have it.
Right.
So, although he was kind of like the prog thing was the one thing I got from him, but I just remember him being like a big Bowie fan, hearing Bowie for the first time really because of him.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because I think with my brother who was 7 years older, so obviously he was more of that generation. He he was very sort of particular. It was just vinyl. It was albums. There was no singles,
Yeah.
and they were all put in those kind of plastic covers to sort of protect the sleeves. The Roger Dean album covers, and and I could see that music was a very serious thing. So there was no glam in there, but there was like two albums that I would kind of listen to religiously, which was Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and Sergeant Pepper. And again, this was like quite early 70s, early to mid 70s. So there was no cultural sort of thing about those albums at the time. And it was kind of weird because then you realise that the Beatles had only just broken up, hadn't they?
Yeah.
And it felt like a whole other world, didn't it? It just felt like that was old people's music almost. Not quite, it wasn't Max Bygraves, but it was just of another generation, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I think you're right because I mean, the 70s seemed to be, unlike other decades, seemed to have three separate, definite identities, and each one felt a world away. When punk happened, the what had come before it felt like a long time ago.
Yes.
So yeah, you've got that whole kind of brief periods that happened.
Yeah. And then you had this kind of, the charts were such a big thing, and watching Top of the Pops on a Thursday evening, and then there's the chart show on a Sunday evening, sort of to hear the top 40. And obviously records would move very slowly, wouldn't they? They would go in at number 40 or number 30 and go up 5 places, and it was, oh my God, 5 places. The world is so exciting. And then, oh, another 3 places. This is so records were sort of in our consciousness for quite a long period of time during that time. During that period, they didn't just go in and out at number 5 or whatever. Well, one or two did.
Which could be a good or a bad thing.
It could be, I know. But I suppose you kind of, Telly Savalas probably, and Benny Hills, Ernie the.
That's a very early single I bought, actually.
Was it? God.
Oh well.
God, what's the chances of that? Was that Benny Hill? It wasn't. It wasn't Telly Savalas, was it?
No, Benny Hill, the Benny Hill one. I never bought the taste. I think my mum had it, but I didn't have that one now.
Yes. Because I think there's an author called Will Hodgkinson who did a book on Lawrence from Felt recently. And he did one on the 70s, and I suppose trying to sort of make it sound, I mean, actually the 70s was quite good in a lot of ways. But I think it started with the song Grandad, and then it's finished with a sort of other song by the Winifred School Choir Grandma, or something like that. It was kind of bookend with these two really strange novelty records about grandparents. I'm not completely sure that's right. I'll have to get my facts right. But it was something, there was some really strange singles that we will never forget because they were ensconced in our DNA, aren't they, really?
Like Mouldy Old Dough.
Classic.
For example.
I know. Matchstick's Men and Matchsticks.
Oh, yeah.
So that was, yeah, I know, God. So I was just, because I did an interview with a guy called John Ford who was in, oh God, what was the band? It was You Can't Get Me On, part of the Union.
Oh, Straws.
The Straubs. And he wrote that song, but he also then, years later, when he did a pretend punk band, wrote a song called Nice Legs, Shame About the Face. And I thought, my God, you've written two of the most irritating songs of all time, haven't you? And now I'm interviewing you. I can't believe this. This is great. He told me the story behind the latter. He said it was his girlfriend saw a woman and said, "Oh, nice legs, shame at the face." And he went, "Oh, that's a good song title." And there you go.
Yeah.
Sort of, yes. Anyway, God. So then, as we progressed, then how did sort of, you got to 16, leaving school, which was that the late 70s at that stage?
Yeah. Yes. 16. I'd have been 76, I think. Yeah.
Right. So you were a perfect age for punk. What was your first gig you went to?
I might have been a perfect age for punk, but I was a proghead at the time.
Right.
So it was very much kind of like if you liked prog music, you don't like punk, basically.
Yes.
So for a long time, I resisted the punk thing, just because I felt I oughtn't really. I think there was a couple of songs that some of my school friends liked that I was determined not to like because it's punk. It's that punk stuff. But I did get into the Stranglers.
Right.
I see now why, because it's basically Rick Wakeman in a punk band. But I didn't see that at the time. I thought they were a completely different thing. But yes. Stranglers was my way in. Really.
Yes. Well, then I remember them when they did a song called Duchess as well, which was just, I remember seeing that on Top of the Pops and being very excited. But I think that was about 79, actually, that came out.
Yeah.
So at 16, did you leave school at that age?
Well, I can't. Well, I went to sixth form after that.
Right.
And then college after that.
Right.
My intention at that point in time was to stay at college for the rest of my life.
It was the 80s, wasn't it, really? There didn't seem much point in trying to get a job, was there? It was terrible.
I never really wanted a job, so it's kind of like stay in education. I'm enjoying it here.
Yes, well, absolutely. I mean, you were also at that perfect age where, the political landscape changed quite a lot. 79, Thatcher gets in, and then we get the Falkland War, then we get the miners' strike. There's Greenham Common. Did those things kind of impact on your life at all?
I can't say they did. No. At the time, I was growing up in a Yorkshire, basically a Yorkshire mining town. So the mining thing was very much a thing, and it's something that I was very resistant to. Just because I don't want to be Johnny Opposite here, but at the time when I was growing up, basically the people who were the bullies were miners.
Right.
They weren't nice people on the whole, certainly to people like me and my friends. Um, so I wasn't very keen on them. And then when they went on strike, I wasn't on the other side, but I wasn't on their side either
Yes, well,
at the
that's
time.
fair enough. It's like it's hard to embrace. It's hard to
It's
embrace.
difficult because, like, although I didn't get bullied as much as some of my friends did because I'm larger, so people didn't pick on me. I'm kind of aware of that. I'm kind of aware of the kind of people that do pick on you, and
Yes.
I'm very wary of them. So I'm not keen on various members of the working classes, for example. But not that I'm a snob or anything, but because I'm certainly not.
No, but a
But
sense of
there's some bullying behaviour that you learn to avoid. You know,
yes. Well, it was kind of I came from the countryside or the country environment, and mostly it was kind of everyone was into bikers, motorbikes, from progressing from mopeds to motorbikes to leather jackets to the denim, and it was that culture, and everyone loved Status Quo and Deep Purple and Black Sabbath, and and everyone wanted to leave school at 15 or as soon as possible to work in a chicken factory, and it was that kind of culture that I was kind of surrounded by, and
yeah,
yes, and it was very macho and very tough, and everyone had to
yeah,
be hard, and and you had long hair, and you couldn't even admit to liking things like the beat and two tone because you were immediately classed as some sort of puff and beaten up. So it was quite straightforward, really. It was very tribal times.
I did garner a whole new group of friends once. I was out with some of my friends, and sort of a bit like what you're describing, but slightly more normal. Not long hair. Um, and they were my friends when I was in sixth form, and we were out and we met up with a, a couple of people that were into punk music and dressed accordingly. And there was a little bit of a, shall we say, a tete-a-tete between the two groups.
Right.
And the group that I was in, I didn't get involved, but the group that I was in were the bullying type, and they did do some bullying. And at that point, I never saw them again. Actually, I just said, well, I'm gonna hang around with these lot.
Yeah.
I didn't know them, but I just thought that I'm interested in these people. These are my people. So you can basically fuck off. I've
Yes.
had enough of you. And I got a whole new group of friends like overnight. And I ended up joining because I found that they were in a band. So I joined the band. So that kind of was the start of my musical kind of life, really.
Yes. So how did you start to when was your first musical adventure? Oh, what was your first gig you went to, by the way?
First gig that I went to, well, back in the mid-70s, going back to my brother, who was a bit of a prog head and got me into Pink Floyd and various other bands. Um, he didn't have much to do with the family, but my mum basically made him take me out to a gig because I really wanted to go to a gig, and he was just like, "Oh, no, do I have to take him?"
Mm.
So basically, she made him do it. I don't know how much she threatened him or how much she paid him, but he took me along to. So it was my first gig, which was the Sensation Alex Harvey band. I know, and I don't think much. A lot of things pale in comparison after that.
Wow.
But I
That
just
is
thought this is what a show should be. I was
wow.
completely suckered into it. It was brilliant.
God, what year was that? Can you
70, I think he's in 75 or 76. I think it was 76 because 75 was the Saab Live album. I
yeah.
definitely wasn't on that tour, so it must have been the one after it.
Yeah, God, that's amazing. Actually, bizarrely, over the weekend, I just watched this documentary on Alex Harvey. And I did an interview with the guitarist, a few years ago, and just amazed with that band, and yeah, just incredible kind of performance, but also so interesting musically. I mean, you just remember the hits that we heard, but then all the other styles. They were really good musicians, and Alex had this kind of very theatrical quality and
Yeah,
storytelling,
yeah,
and just loved to act out pieces. And actually, the band were also very into acting as well, and just
yeah.
incredibly clever. But yeah, I mean, God, fantastic. I mean, there's a few bands you think, God, that would be amazing to have seen live in their prime, and Alex Harvey would have been one. And
Yeah.
I mean, that Kate Bush tour that she did for 79 would have been incredible to have seen that. But yeah, I mean, those types of performers are incredible. So yes, yeah, incredible. So what was your musical moment then? How did this develop and how did it happen?
Um, well, I mean, from about 72, I think I knew I wanted to be in a band. I knew I wanted to do that, and it's a question of trying to find a band. Really, didn't have much luck when I was at school. Still, there were bands forming, and for a couple of months, and then folding. And I couldn't really get into one of those because basically there's a guy at my school that was massively into Elvis Presley, and he called himself Gary Tremaine because he thought he swept his hair back, and he formed a band called the Wild Turtles or something,
Right.
which basically he formed a band to be his Elvis backing band, basically. So it was
Nice.
kind of do wop type stuff, which really wasn't something that any of us were interested in particularly. But it was his main obsession. So that he kind of there wasn't much going on basically at our school.
No.
It wasn't
And
until I moved up to Yorkshire that I met these punk kids that I found joined their band basically.
so what part of Yorkshire did you move to?
Wakefield, well, the
Wakefield.
sort of Wakefield area, yeah.
Right. Because it's kind of also not just punk, but it's also the home of almost goth, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, yeah, I do remember goth nights happening at the Hellfire Club in Wakefield.
God, that's amazing. Did
I
you
did go there once to see Virgin Prunes and the Fall, uh,
blimey.
the local goth club, if you like.
And did you go to Bradford at all or Leeds for gigs?
We used to go to Leeds from time to time, yeah, because we used to see a lot of bands in Leeds,
Yes.
like the Fall and what's John Otway. Uh,
Did you
saw a
see
lot
people
of
like
bands.
the Mekons or Sisters of Mercy or those
No,
sort of bands?
see that was a wave just after I sort of kind of got into all that. A lot of my friends did go see Gang of Four and people like that. But
Right.
I was a little bit after that, so nothing much was going on,
Yes.
like post punk.
So what was the first kind of proper kind of band that you were in? Is this called Possession?
Well, yeah, it became Cold Possession in the mid-80s.
Right.
Well, yeah.
What was there anything before that?
Well, when the band I joined was called Step TLV. They were like, I would describe them as a kind of slightly psychedelic, kind of, if you imagine Joy Division but without the words, without any singing,
Yes.
just the music. Because the band had already decided they weren't going to have a singer because they were embarrassed by opening their mouth and being the singer. They're all embarrassed by that, so they decided they weren't going to have singing, uh, which is something that I was like, well, I want to be a singer, so it's a really outlet for me here. Eventually, I did when it became Possession. I did start to sing a bit, but they weren't really keen on being tuneful.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes, because I've heard
particularly.
because they're on your just looking at Possession, you did one album, didn't you?
Yeah,
Which was kind of came out on A Mission Records. I listened to it because that's quite sort of a sort of sonic sensation of a soundscape, really, isn't it?
it was a bunch of uh, late teenagers obsessed with throbbing gristle. That's basically what that was.
Right.
It was just before that it wasn't like that. Before we were kind of like going more towards a sort of psychedelic thing, and then we got waylaid by this obsession with throbbing gristle, which just came out of the blue, and it was decided that that's what we were going to do.
Yes.
Be as shocking as possible.
And did you ever
To
play
the
live?
detriment of the music. Hmm?
Yes. Did you ever play live?
No, well, we kind of did. We split up in 80, I think it was 85,
Right.
85, because Steve went to join Coil. And
Oh,
so we just basically called it a day. And actually, in the early 90s, I think we reformed to play some gigs just for a laugh, basically.
right.
So we did end up doing like some very extreme gigs in the early 90s.
Yes. My
Yeah.
God. So you did this one album, the thin white
Within my
arms.
arms, obtusely angled at the elbow, methodically dipping and emerging. Yeah.
Yes. It's very.
It's a line taken from a Mervyn Peake book that Gorman got.
Oh God, I remember reading that in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was a must-read thing.
Yeah.
So you recorded this at Woodland Studios, Castleford.
Yeah.
God, that was sort of the home of Chumbawamba, not the home of Chumbawamba, but they did most of their stuff there, didn't
Actually,
they?
weirdly enough, I remember the day Chumbawamba came in to look at the studio. It was like 83, something like that.
Right,
Obviously never heard them before. They were just a new band that was just starting out.
right.
Because we used to
Was
go
it
in there.
nice? Was it a nice kind of setup there?
Well, I think it was just that when the band formed, it's what, 70, 78, 79, the band formed. I wasn't in them at that point. Uh, Woodlands had just opened up like a little 4-track studio, so it was kind of affordable. Like a
Yes.
bunch of kids to go in and just record, so they started going in from about then.
Yeah. So when Possession split in sort of, was it 85 then, after the album?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
We're
So
sort
then,
of, we're sort of recording a second album and going back more towards what the psychedelic thing that we were doing, which I was quite pleased with, but it never
yeah,
got released,
no.
which is a
Did,
shame because it was all right. Yeah.
yes. God, do you have all your archives with you now? Do you have all
Oh
the,
yeah, yeah. I spent months was going through all my cassettes and digitizing them all, playing them all. So endless hours of rehearsing and stuff. So it's all recorded.
yes. So with the
Yeah.
eight, yes, with the 80s then, were you also interested in the musical landscape at that time with different things going on with, different,
Not at all. I spent most of the 80s catching up on stuff I hadn't heard before, from the 60s and 70s.
right.
Because to me, there wasn't an awful lot out there, really. So it gave me the chance to do that. I genuinely thought there wasn't anything of any interest happening, mainly because I wasn't listening, wasn't
Yes.
listening particularly. It wasn't until I met Richard at Wakefield College, Richard Green. He was, I think I was 26 and he was 16. So he was like really into sort of Sugar Cube, Pixies, REM, a lot of those bands, which I'd never heard of at that point.
Yeah.
He
God.
introduced me to all of those.
So you went and you did a course at Wakefield College
Yeah,
on sort of popular and commercial music.
yeah.
Yes. So was that a 2-year or 3-year course?
That is the graduate diploma was 2 years at Wakefield, and then we went on to Newcastle to do the diploma.
Right.
Because there was only, I think at the time, there was only three places in the country that were doing that. This new course, like music. That was Salford, Leeds, and Newcastle were doing that. So we had a choice of which one we wanted to do, and it was basically Salford was like slightly more technical, kind of machiney sort of stuff. Leeds was more jazz, and Newcastle was more kind of pop. So we
Right.
decided on Newcastle just because we didn't want to lean into jazz or particularly.
No, jazz. Interesting, isn't it? So you picked up Richard, your classical cellist.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what he was. Yeah, he was a classically trained cellist. Yeah,
Yes, and then Andy Peace, the
yeah.
drummer, and then you got Vanessa Best on bass.
The first time I met Andy Peace at Wakefield College, I actually asked him what got him into drumming, thinking he was going to say like John Bonham or you know any number of musicians. He because he basically started out as a joiner, and he liked wood. He liked working with wood. And
Right.
the way that the drums were shaped, with the way that they kind of like wet the wood and then shape them into a circle. And he was fascinated by that. That's what fascinated me about the drums. that's why I started playing drums. So I thought it was
Right.
quite bizarre, kind of like. So you weren't actually influenced by music or anything? No. Okay.
Excellent. Yes. So when you were there, you then got together with Paul Hope and then formed, was this Sleepy People?
Yeah, well, Paul, I'd known Paul for a long time because he was in the first band I joined, which was Step TLV. He was a member of that band. So I'd known him a long time. And he went off in the 80s and formed various bands, one of which is called the Rainy Days, who I bumped into from time to time. And they morphed into Sleepy People when they moved to Newcastle. So basically, Paul and Rachel from the Rainy Days moved to Newcastle, where we were, and just formed a band with with Richard and people called Sleepy People.
Yeah. And were you always very keen on psychedelic rock at this stage? Was this kind of the one thing that you were sort of going for?
Yeah, yeah. Certainly amongst a multitude of influences, really. It's kind of like Sleepy People was like a melting pot. Let's just chuck everything in here, do whatever. So there was like, I know there's Bond themes hanging about in there. There's slight bit of glam, um, a fair amount of prog, and lots of cardiac influence, and a lot of cardiac influence really at that point.
Yes, my God, the Cardiacs. When did you suddenly become aware of the band?
I became aware of them in about when we moved, sort of on the move to Newcastle, so 1991 was when
Right.
Paul slightly before. I think Paul was actually doing a live radio broadcast, like a session, and in between takes they played a cardiac song, and Paul was listening on his headphones. He heard this cardiac song and thought, I can't play next. It's like, I can't. What we're doing is so far behind what I've just heard. I feel ashamed to have to play this now. And that's basically what happened, how Sleepy People came about. So I can't do that anymore. I've got to do this, So
Yes. So you recorded quite a few albums with Sleepy People, didn't you?
we did two, I think, but like cassette albums that we used to sell at gigs before me and Richard left, and then I think they did another one after we left, which still featured some of the songs we'd done. Um,
Yes.
But
So did
at that point, it was only cassette albums that we just released ourselves on, to sell at gigs.
yes. So were you on Blunt Nails in a Sharp Wall? Was that one
Yeah,
of your?
yeah.
And did you do the Typhoid and Swans? Was that
Typhoid and
all
Swans. It's not me singing on that one. We'd left by that point.
right? So why did you leave Sleepy People?
We left because during our tenure in Sleepy People, Richard had started actually writing of its own songs to play with Sleepy People eventually, initially.
Yes.
And he kind of got the bug about it, and me and Richard were kind of very sort of excitable together about what music can do, um, and we basically went around to see Paul, whose band it is really, and he wouldn't even get out of bed when we went to see him, and we started talking about, I've got these new songs and we really want to play them, and getting really excited. And he just didn't seem to be excited at all. He was just, yeah, whatever. So we just thought, well, we need to just do it, ourselves.
Yes.
So we just
Absolutely.
basically left and moved to London.
Yeah. Was that quite an interesting scene during the early 90s when you were there?
I think Newcastle's always struggled, maybe not in the 60s, but it certainly struggled since the late 70s in terms of creating a scene or having any kind of scene. And bands don't even play there anymore, do they? It's like a ghost town now. But bands you used to do this. Newcastle was part of the circuit.
Yes.
It's becoming less and less so. I think
Weird.
because it's hard, I think it's quite hard to get any kind of positive when it comes to live music in Newcastle. Certainly, the response of audiences was very kind of like, I'm here to be entertained, so just entertain me. It's like, well, that's not really how it works. It's a two-way thing, isn't it? An audience and a band.
Yeah.
You kind of got you've got to put the effort in yourself, or you're not going to get anything out. And I think we were operating in that kind of environment. Us and a band called Greedsville were kind of operating in a kind of void in that environment. So we basically used to just play as many places as we could, really, rather than just Newcastle. We kind of we garnered a bit of a following in Newcastle, which was great, but it took a lot of gigs to get there.
Right.
In the meantime, we were playing places like Carlisle and just anywhere, like Cockermouth, even just anywhere out of town to play. And Middlesbrough was another really good one to play.
Right.
So we just played all over the place, including London as well. We played London quite a few times.
Yes. What were your main venues in London? Was it
It was the Samuel Beckett. Every time it was it was only ever the Samuel Beckett
Right.
in Stoke Newington. But
Yeah.
because I think the woman that ran it just liked us, like that kind of scene,
Yeah. Nice. What was it quite a big? Because you and Richard left and went down to London. Did you sort of have any sort of plan? Did you know where you were going to be staying?
Very little plan. I mean, the first time we went, we all got in Richard's van and went down to London, and then started looking for a flat. And then it was only at that point that we realised that you actually need some money for a deposit. We had no idea about that. So we just decided to drive back up to Newcastle and come back 6 months later when we saved up some money.
Right.
So the first time didn't work very well. But yeah, but the only idea we had was that we kind of partly knew the people that did the organ fanzine, who were kind of cardiac supporters.
Right.
Rena and Sean ran that. So they had a little fanzine that they used to put out at gigs and stuff, and they'd promote gigs and what have you. So they were the only two people we knew, and we knew kind of that they knew us and liked what we did. So we thought, well, we'll use that connection to get gigs. Basically, initially, that's kind of what we did.
Yes. And that 90s period, I mean, there was a lot of kind of interesting, well, there was interesting, but, music became very popular during that time. In the 80s, the indie scene was very much the indie scene, but then the 90s, those bands suddenly became types of bands. Obviously, they all split up in those bands we loved in the 80s. But then, that kind of indie scene that started all became very popular. Did you find the audience down, in London much more sort of receptive to what you were doing?
No, no, not at all. And apart from a few people who we knew and your friends and stuff that liked what we did, you couldn't find an audience. It really, I mean, we'd end up playing to no one often, because obviously the promoter doesn't know who we are. They'll put us on, and we won't bring any people because we don't know anyone. So
Right.
we don't expect to ever play a venue twice because
Yes.
they just wouldn't ask us back, really. And apart from a couple of people who liked what we did. But how do you get people to like what you do? They've got to listen to it. So we
Yes.
find a way to do that, really.
So you were called Popcat a Pedal.
Yeah, proper cat's pedal. Yeah.
My
Well,
God,
for a while.
how did you come up with that name, by the way?
I know it. Well, it's the name of a mountain, isn't it? And a god in Mexico.
Right. Yes, I did not know
I
that.
don't know. I think it's just because we're amused by the fact that it's got pop in it.
Yes.
If anything, we're not a pop band, but we kind of are because we make tunes. So
Yes. And were you still very prog at this stage?
we still had a cardiac influence that we weren't able to shake off for a while.
Yes. Did you support them as well at any
We
stage?
did, yeah. We supported the Astoria, which is again organ through contacts with the organ.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So then, when did you change your name to Ultrasound?
Definitely 95, because we actually did this thing where we sent we kind of wrote out a little thing saying what date it was and everything, but to make it look as official as possible, and then sent it to ourselves in a sealed envelope. not to open it, so it could prove that it's our name if anyone ever wants to like sue us.
Right.
That was dated 1995.
God, yeah. So you put out one EP, didn't you, with on as this was on Org Records, who I've never come across. Oh, that was the
Oh, yeah,
organ.
when we were Papa Caterpillar, yeah, we did a cassette, yeah, EP, mini album, whatever you like, yeah.
Right, and this was the organ fanzine people, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And then life changed for the ultrasound. During that time, did you? Because we had the birth of the Britpop world, and there was those Shine compilations. Did you? Were you? You mentioned people like the Pixies and the Sugar Cubes. Were you interested in any of the music scene that was happening in the 90s at this stage, or were you still in
Yeah,
this?
I think it actually was Stay Together by Suede was quite an important song for us. Just because I think me and Richard were sleepy people at this point, not thinking that that world's not really anything to do with us. We do our weird shit here, and it's always going to be that way. And then Richard brought around Stay Together, the full version, and we listened to it and thought, oh, well, there's someone actually doing it and making it successful. Someone actually in the charts, if you like, but is making a record that features all of those things that we'd like to feature.
Yes.
Kind of long, slow, progression things, guitar solos, and but they've still got a great tune. And we just thought that's interesting.
Yes.
That's a way. That's a kind of a way forward, a way for us to get in, really.
And had you increased the band you'd put? Was there a keyboard player you brought in at this stage? Was that Matt Jones?
Yeah, yeah. We'd known Matt. He was at college with us in Newcastle. He was very much a jazz, full on, heavy jazz keyboard player
Yes.
up there.
And at that point, when did Simon Williams appear at Fierce Panda?
Oh, he just sort of he sort of sidled up to us in a pub. I think we'd just done a gig, and he sort of like sidled. He didn't say who he was or anything. He just sort of sidled up and said, "Yeah, I run a thing called Fierce Panda," like
Yeah.
expecting us never to have even heard of them. Like, yeah, we know Fierce Panda. That's just, It's would you like to make a single with us? So
Yes.
that
What was
was
that?
it.
And that was the first single was Same Band.
Yeah.
My God. Can you remember much about it, the session?
Oh God, yeah. Um, friend of ours who lived below us but lived in a flat. He lived below. He was a jazz keyboard player. He's an Australian fellow. Really nice guy. He had a friend who had rich parents, and his rich parents had given him the money to build a studio. So he built a studio in Brick Lane, and he was building this studio, and was being helped by our friend who's an electronics kind of guy, and basically he pulled some favors and got us in there for very little, an affordable amount of money. The problem is the guy didn't have a clue what he was doing. He just basically fancied the idea of being an engineer, but didn't really know how to do it.
Right.
It was a bit of a nightmare, really. Whatever could go wrong did go wrong during the recording of that black record. But we managed to salvage something out of it, thankfully.
Yes. My God. So you got, like same band and the B-side, Floodlit World as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Were you pleased with the end results of that? Or
Um,
was it
it was basically a salvaged mess.
right?
So I've
Yes.
not really. I can't say I've actually ever listened to it since, but
No.
I'm sure it sounds fine.
Yes. But
When you,
you got good press in the NME for it.
yeah, I guess it's
Yes.
kind of weird because I think I went to a festival. I'm not sure which one it was. I think it's possibly Reading. And I was walking down the side of the main stage, and I heard the song come on the PA. Because Steve Lamacq was on there playing records, and I thought I recognise that song, and it was us. It was the same band single. It was a
Blimey.
bizarre moment because it's the first time I'd ever heard it played by someone else. And
Yes.
it was like Reading Festival. I wasn't, where you wouldn't expect it to be played, but there it was.
No, my God, there you go. And then after the Fierce Panda, then was there a bit of a interest in the band? And
Yeah, it was before the Fierce Panda thing. It was we did the Enemy New Band Showcase night, and people seemed very impressed, and especially a guy called John Idman, who worked at Fire Records at the time. He
right,
was the guy that picked up the phone and told the entire music industry about us. One by one, he'd telephone saying, "I just saw this band last night. They're fucking awesome. You've got to go see them." And that's the guy that started the whole buzz happening.
what was his name?
John Idman.
John Ivan. He's the one.
I think he'd had something to do with Suede early on,
Right.
but he
So,
was working at Fire Records at the time.
yes, and there you go. So were you a good live band at this stage?
Yeah, I think you see that's something we've always known that we were good at. It's just in the early days it was kind of like trying to convince someone to actually come and see you was the problem.
Yes.
We knew that if we could get an audience, we knew that they would like it. We just knew that we were good enough at playing live to be able to put that across.
Yeah.
I think it was our strength.
Yeah. So
Actually, weirdly, when you listen back to recordings of us live, there was quite ropey sounding because we were out of tune at the time, all of the time. But that's not the important thing when you see a band live. It's never the important thing. I'm always amazed when I see live bands how that are in tune. Like how can you hold it? It's like you're pouring out all of these emotions. It's like fuck tuning.
yes, absolutely. So when was your next experience in the studio, was that Mayflower then on Nude Records?
No, we didn't. We didn't. Did we go in to do best? I think it was Best Wishes actually. Um,
Oh,
actually got no recollection of recording Best Wishes at all. But that was the
right.
first single. Mayflower was just like a collection of songs, just so we could
Mhm.
send something, like put something out in America. It's like
Right.
this
So
is
I
us
think
sort of thing.
that was, yes, it started to move quite. Oh, yes, your next singles were Best Wishes and Stay Young, which kind of reached number 30 in the UK singles chart. So things were looking very good at this stage.
Yeah, I guess from an outside point of view, yeah, I suppose they were. Yeah.
Well, it's impressive. I mean, it was kind of a bit of a golden period in music on the indie sort of front. That John Major New Labour period of sort of hits and just interest in people. And did you start playing festivals as well at this point
Yeah.
in '98?
Yeah.
Was there any memorable ones? Did you do Glastonbury or any of those?
I think they're all memorable from different perspectives. We did. I think Reading '98 was a particular one. Um, it's a weird one because each one's different because of certain different emotional things that happen. I think it's not necessarily whether we're well on stage or not. It's kind of the day. But yeah, Reading was very memorable just from the point of view of like coming off stage and being so excited that it's finally happened. I guess I guess it was that kind of feeling.
And
Really.
were you getting good tour slots as well on supporting
Well, we
people?
got asked to play with Travis, who turned out to be the loveliest bunch of people I've ever met in my life.
Right.
Really lovely guys, and they were so. It was so kind of like they just loved what we did, even though we're not like them at all. I mean, the sort of thing that they do is completely different to what we do. But it's kind of like the monkeys getting Jimi Hendrix to support them.
Or
I'm
Engelbert.
not saying we're better than Travis. We're absolutely not as good as Travis at doing what Travis do because they're brilliant at it.
Yes.
It's just not what we could do.
Yeah. I think they'd had that big single, hadn't they? They suddenly hit lucky with that "Why Does It Always Rain on Me?" And one of those Glastonbury moments that got repeated a lot. on the TV coverage, and suddenly they went storming up the charts, and everything else was good. And did you tour with Placebo as well at that stage?
Yeah, we did. It was a question of we got offered Super Furry Animals, and is an example of how we're all completely different in terms of like our musical, interests. Richard had never heard of Super Furry Animals and didn't like them, and I just thought, to me, Super Furries were the closest anyone on that scene had come to being similar to us.
Right.
Didn't see any similarities with anyone else, apart from little bits of the psychedelic stuff that was going on in Super Furries. And so I thought that's a really good, cross. I would love to do that, but Richard just wouldn't have it. He was like, I don't know, I don't know them, and so therefore they're going to be shit.
Right. God.
So we had to turn that one down. And so the record company came back to us and says, well, in that case, it's either the Manics or Placebo, pick. So we looked at the tour dates, and there was less for the Placebo one, so we went with Placebo then. So that's kind of how we got Placebo tour.
Yes.
And also because Richard had played in a band with one of them. I suppose that might have been a connection.
That was going to swing it, really, wasn't it? Yes. Yes. Was that an all right tour? Because they were the darlings of the music press at that stage, weren't they?
It was all right. I don't like to put people down, but I mean, Placebo aren't my thing at all. But Brian turned out to be quite a nice guy, really. And every time we walked into the room and he was sound checking, he'd start playing Stay Young, which was a really nice thing to do. It's like I've got no fault with him at all.
Yeah.
Lovely bloke.
Yes. Well, I remember him. Yeah, sort of. Yeah, he did a little number with David Bowie, and he was in a film called Velvet Goldmine as well, which was quite nice. He did
Yeah, it's a good film. Yeah.
Yes.
It gets put down a lot, but it's actually decent.
Oh God, I think it's fantastic. It was one of I love that film so much. I don't know why.
I love Steve Harley, so anything that's got tumbling down in it, it's going to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I thought it's a delightful sort of film. So I can't see why. I don't know. It captures a certain essence.
It does, yeah.
And a vibe. So when you came to do the album, Everything Picture, what studio were you in for this one? Because you have a much bigger team, don't you? And a lot more producers.
Well, we did initially. We had, oh God, what's his name? Big producer, Nigel Goodrich.
Right.
We had Nigel Goodrich, and he produced the Stay Young single. It didn't really work out with him because it basically, and to be fair, he's a producer, so therefore he knows what he's doing. And the problem is, he came into to us and started doing that, and we were like, well, we don't want anyone to impose what they want on our music. We don't know what the music should be yet.
Yes.
We need to work out what we're actually even doing here. Because I think it wasn't a question of like, we've got this bunch of songs, let's just record this bunch of songs, which is kind of what he wanted us to do. And if we had, he would have recorded them really well. And I'm absolutely convinced of that. However, it's just not what we wanted. We wanted to experiment, so it didn't really last with him. So we ended up initially with him at Townhouse.
Yes.
And went to a residential studio called Chapel in Lincolnshire.
Right.
Which I think is where I know Arctic Monkeys recorded early on there. But loads of people recorded, at that studio.
Right. I know I've heard of Rockfield, which is a residential one, but I've never come across that one in Lincolnshire. So who was your producer for that part of the journey?
Well, we got the guy called Nick Terry, who at the time was working at Chiswick Reach, which is an all-valve studio in West London. And we'd become friends because we'd done demos there and B-side stuff there. So we just asked him along, really.
Right. So did you record most of the album at that studio during that session?
All of the stuff that we hadn't yet recorded, yeah, everything was done there.
Right. Yes. Were you pleased with the end result at that? Or was it a tricky one?
Yeah, I was pleased with the end result. I wanted it to be all those things that we got criticised for. I
Yes.
mean, I initially wanted it to be a triple album, but I was talked down to a double, even though they didn't want a double, they wanted a single. Um, at least it's not a triple. It's basically what the record company were thinking.
Oh my God,
It might be
yes.
a double, but at least it's not a triple.
Blimey. Because that's quite unusual in those days, isn't it? A double album.
Well, you see, the thing is, it's called Everything Picture, which is based on a thing that Richard did as a child. He used to just draw pictures as a child, but put everything in them so that, it'd just be a blur of nothingness. Like everything was just, higgledy-piggledy added onto it. And we had that idea because we didn't know how long we would last. We didn't know what the future was going to be like. So we just wanted to put everything in all at once. It's like that, the Bob Dylan thing when he wrote Hard Rain.
Yeah.
He didn't know if he'd have enough life left to make all the songs he wants to make. So he just put them all into one song. That was what he said.
Right.
It's kind of that idea, really. It's kind of like, we don't know what the future's going to hold, so let's just put everything in this one album.
Which is a good idea. I think, it's a good philosophy. You just don't know.
Why not? Yeah.
Because it's, yes, we don't know. As they say, you could get hit by a bus tomorrow. So, yeah, no, good. But then did you become sort of darlings of the kind of media world and fashion world at that stage? Was the band riding high?
It's difficult for me to say. I didn't see it from the outside perspective particularly. I don't particularly read. I'm not an avid reader of Murder Maker Enemy all of the time. I, dip into it once or twice. So I wasn't aware, and I know that this has been said to me before, that you open up a picture, you open up a copy of the Enemy any week, and there'll be a picture of me in there. That was kind of like what the reports I was getting, but I wasn't aware of it particularly. So yeah, I was aware because I was being told, but I wasn't aware myself particularly.
Yes. Yeah. God, that was quite an interesting time. And then what was the kind of follow up to the release of the album? Did you tour much on that, or did you?
We did. Well, we toured. We certainly did a big tour around the release of the album, and then after that tour, it was festivals. So the start of those festivals would have been Glastonbury, which we played, but we split up before that. Just after that gig.
Yes.
So we didn't play the other festivals that we were booked for.
Yeah. So how did the split develop? What was the kind of reasons for that?
Um, well, people always say that at this point musical differences, don't they?
They do. They used to a lot, didn't they?
Yeah. Not so much musical differences, more personal differences. Really, we were finding it increasingly difficult to actually be in a room together without something breaking down. Usually arguments and fights. It was hard to communicate with all that going on. Really.
Yes. God. Were
Uh,
you looking back on it? Were you surprised how in such a short space of time it became so kind of unbearable?
no, I think we're kind of aware that we're on that road anyway. We often used to have conversations long before we signed a deal or anything. That well, we often used to look at the Who story, because the Who kind of at times in their career hated each other, wouldn't be in the same room as each other, and actually fought violently sometimes.
Yes.
Uh, and we just saw that example and thought, well, if they can still be such an incendiary band, then but not get on, then maybe we're okay, because
Yes.
we weren't getting on particularly, but we just thought, we know that what we do is great, so let's just concentrate on that, really. And it was becoming harder and harder to do that. That's
Mm.
all, really.
Yeah.
And until we sorted that out, which being, northern blocks, we never would.
I guess I remember watching one of those documentaries about band. They were talking about having band therapy. Did you ever think, God, we should have had band
We
therapy?
did. We did have band therapy.
Did you?
Yeah, we did. There was a new therapy thing called. I think it was called the Arts Clinic, and it was run by Sandy Shaw. It's what she was doing in the 90s.
Right.
And I did have a few appointments with her, and I saw her quite regularly for a while. And we did have a group session as well, which didn't turn out very well.
So how did the group session work? Did you all sit in a room with a facilitator and then, have a talking stick, and people were like told, you can only talk when you're holding the talking stick. Don't interrupt people and all that. What was it? What was the session like? Did it last?
I'll tell you what it's like. There's a really. I've always found it's a really cool picture. There's a book about Yes, the band.
Yeah.
It's quite a big book, so it's mainly photographs and it's a bit of blurb, mostly photographs. And there's a photograph in there from their 1973 sessions, the Tales from Topographic Ocean sessions, where it all went wrong.
Yes.
And there's a photograph in there, and they're all sat in the room with like wires and stuff and keyboards and what have you. And they just sat all staring at the floor while Rick Wakeman's just playing with the lead. And you can tell they've just had a massive blowout and no one's talking to each other. That's kind of how our session went.
Right.
Just staring at the floor as hard as you possibly could.
It's been fascinated. My God, so no one spoke then? Or
No, nothing got... yeah, people spoke. I spoke up occasionally and, things were said, but I think it was like a desperate avoidance thing, you didn't want to... Just don't bring it up because it could go really bad, Let's just simmer instead.
Just simmer it.
It's the easy way.
Yeah, I'm surprised the facilitator didn't want you to let go of these kind of feelings, or at least air them to get some clarity on them.
But it's the way it works, and I was always happy to do that. But other people just don't want to, just don't want to go there.
Yeah.
I get that. I understand. You don't want to bring all that up.
No, gosh, there's deep stuff going on. So then, what's your next musical moment? Because obviously, that's the end of the band after one album.
Yeah.
Then how do you sort of have Ultrasound Mark II?
Well, we kind of all went our separate ways. Richard formed a band called the Somatics. I formed a band called Siren. Vanessa was in she was in a band with who was it? Guy out of Spiritualized.
Oh, right, yes.
Mark Refoy.
I can't remember.
Anyway, I never heard it. We just didn't, we didn't operate in the same circles at all. So, I think Andy played for Baxter Jury for a while as well.
Right.
I recall, but he was just doing whatever. But that was kind of it for 10 years.
Yes.
Time pass by so fast?
It does when you're...
I mean, it doesn't sound... certainly doesn't seem like 10 years, but it was 10 years from the period of time I didn't speak to Richard whatsoever.
Right.
And then I got an email from Vanessa, because Vic had been in touch with her, Vic, who was in the cardiacs for a while.
Oh, yes, Vic, yes.
Got in touch because Tim had just had his accident, and he wasn't very well. So we decided he wanted to do like a tribute gig at the time.
Yes.
Like old people who are influenced by cardiacs together and playing. And he asked if Ultrasound would consider getting together and playing for it, which we did consider. We considered it and then said yes, like straight away, really. So yeah, it was kind of like from that moment, we booked a rehearsal in London, met, and just started playing, and it was... the magic was there, if you like.
Was it? Oh, that is so... Yeah. I love that. That is so Hollywood, isn't it?
We did the same band, actually. We just thought, we know that. Well, that's pretty simple. Let's see what we know,
And what was it like seeing Richard and Vanessa?
Well, obviously really weird for quite a while. But I think just things like personal stuff gets forgotten when you start playing. It's like you start to kind of realise we should just be playing, really, because that kind of solves it all.
Yes.
Once you actually kick into a song, everything else is forgotten.
Was it a nice experience? Did you feel, actually, this is quite nice to do?
Yeah, it was electric. It was just wonderful. Yeah, it's certainly one of those things where you just think, I want to do this for all of my life.
Yes, well, it's well, I love the Fleetwood Mac story, and I know there's always those, you know, I mean, they've had so many different chapters and different personnels, but I mean, you know, from that, you know, the Peter Green years, but then the sort of Lindsay and Stevie Nicks period, where you knew that how delicate it must have all been at times in the room, you know, their
But they must also be aware that whatever things, whatever frictions are between each member, it's that kind of goes towards what makes them so good.
Yes.
Be aware of that, surely. Well, they would definitely be aware of that because they kept on. They continue. They must know that those little frictions make the magic happen.
Yes. I know, amazing. So then Fierce Panda, are they the label that comes and puts out your second
Yeah,
album?
because when we reformed, we basically reformed. The gig didn't happen, but it was an album. It became an album, which we contributed a song to.
Was that Big Ship?
Yeah, yeah. So we were kind of thinking, well, we want to continue because we love doing this. Let's make more music. And it was at that point that Simon and Andy McLeod, who'd kind of joined forces a little bit, got in touch with us and had a meeting and basically sat down and said, we absolutely love Ultrasound. We adore them, and we used to dream about you coming back together again. So if there's anything we can do to help, then just let us know, you know? And we're like, as it happens, we need both a manager and a record label. And
Right.
you're a manager and you're a record label. Put our record out.
Oh, that's fantastic, isn't it? So you put out Play for Today,
Yeah.
2012, with the single Welfare State and Sovereign as the first singles.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you then start touring? Did you sort of come back as a fully formed band touring and...
We did do a couple of tours, like small tours, and not not the biggie stuff from the 90s, because there's not a lot of money to go around. So
Yes, I know.
yeah,
So
as much as we possibly could do, yeah, we did sort of do a few little mini tours. Yeah.
yes. And you also brought out was it 2013 a single as well, a downloadable single for the winter solstice.
Yeah, the Modronic, yeah, yeah.
Yes, my God. So was this by your long-term band fan, a GP, a doctor?
Yeah, yeah. Well, he got weirdly, Vanessa one day put out a thing on Facebook saying, "Oh, my fridge is broken. Does anyone out there can donate their old fridge? Because I can't afford to buy one at the moment." And the next thing she knew, a few days later, a man from like the Rumbelows or whatever it's called these days turned up with a brand new fridge. And it was a donation from Phil Pevley, who's a doctor. They had a little. There's a few doctors got a little record club on Facebook.
Right.
They get together a week and listen to an album,
That's such a nice
And
idea.
they decided they'd like to dabble a little bit and make their own little record label.
Was this called Classic Album Club Records?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean that came a bit later, but he basically said, "I'll put up the money to you to make a video if you want." So he went down to Hastings and made a video for Modernit.
Blimey. Is that still available?
It's on YouTube somewhere, yeah.
God, that's
But
such a
that's
nice...
often posts it around this time of year.
I would imagine you'll get at least, hopefully, 100 plays or something.
You never know.
I
It's
don't
not
know.
strictly about Christmas. It's about solstice, that period, Modernit, which is called Mother's Night.
Yes,
People
God,
get together and remember all their ancestors. But it's a nice idea, and it's a very Christmassy sort of thing.
yes, longest night, shortest day. So who was the sort of songwriter for that Mother's Night?
Well, it was me and Richard. I wrote the words. Richard wrote the music. Basically, that's usually how it works. Richard sort of comes up with an idea musically, and I just whack some words on it.
Yeah,
It's
don't
not as
know.
simple as that, but that's basically what it transpires as.
Well, I had a lot of New Age and pagan friends at that time. So the winter solstice, the equinoxes, the summer solstice were always, and ley lines, people loved all that, didn't they? So it was one of those things. So at that stage, was the band in sort of good spirits and quite happy?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, Matt left, but at that stage because he just had other things. You know, he's got other projects, other
So
things.
when your doctor friends said, which could be useful with older age, they put together this record club. Then were they going to finance the new album?
Well, yeah, I mean, Phil basically said, "How much do you need to make an album?" And we, after he got over the initial shock of the amount that we said, we set about it. You know.
Right. And was this recorded in Bradford?
Yeah, it was. As a friend of Richard's called Alex, he ran this studio in Bradford, and we used to rehearse. He had a rehearsal studio as part of his complex, and we used to rehearse there as well. So, and Richards plays bass in his band, so
Right.
we're all very close knit.
So how much did the album, or at the time, Real Britannia, did you say, by the way, it's going to cost this much? How much was that?
I think we said 10 grand.
That's
Yeah,
not too bad, is it?
it's not. It's not. Well, that's the whole kit and caboodle, like release and mastering and everything.
Yes.
So it's okay. I mean, it sounds like a lot of money, but studios are like what, 500 quid a day.
Well, and you're hoping to possibly recoup some of that money, I would have thought. I don't know.
Yeah, you always hope that's the case. We never find out. We've never found out what money we might have earned.
No, this is the mystical world of the
No,
record.
it's like we're just grateful to have a record out. That's kind of how musicians are, really.
But that album got phenomenal reviews, didn't it? I mean, a good
It
release.
did, yeah. And what few reviews it got, because obviously we're not a big label, we couldn't afford, to put it out there really. But yeah, the people that did review it really reviewed it favourably. Yeah.
Mm. So since then, what's been this sort of the general vibe of the band? I mean, because that was, I don't know, 9 years ago.
Yeah.
What's been happening since then?
Well, we still do the occasional gig. We're gigging a little bit after the album, getting gigs where we could, basically, because it's down to us to try and get gigs, and we're aiming to do sort of like a little tour a year, more or less, which is what we're doing.
Yes.
When it came time to none of us are real business people. We're not very good at that, and when it fell down to me to actually organise the next set of gigs, which most of which were cancelled because of COVID and stuff.
Yeah.
It was such a strain that I just thought I don't really want to do that. I'm not. That's not me. So I just thought after this set of gigs, I'm not organising anymore.
Right.
If anyone else wants to, I'm happy to do it. So that's kind of where I was, and then Shine got in touch with me via emails asking us to do a gig. So it's kind of at the moment, in the past year, it's been we do a gig if we're asked.
Right. Which is
We did the Cud gig, the Whitby. So, it was a Cud put on a big Whitby gig, and had lots of people like Miles Hunt playing, and asked us to play there. And then Shine, we did Skegness and Minehead.
yes. So that was quite recently,
We
wasn't
just
it?
did it. Yeah, we just did it because we got asked, and it's decent.
Do you
It's
do you
it's
quite?
affordable. So
I was going to say, do you quite enjoy those Shine events, weekenders?
can't say I do. It's not really my kind of thing, but it is someone's kind of thing, and those people whose kind of thing it is absolutely love it, and that's great. It's
Yeah.
great that there is that. You know,
I must admit, I mean, they've become very popular, haven't they?
really popular. I see comments on Facebook like people are so looking forward to going and meeting all the friends, and it's a great vibe. But it's just not. I'm just not that kind of person. I'm not a big nostalgia person. So
No,
if I'm
but
going to meet up friends at a gig, I'd rather go to like a new band or something else, you know.
Yeah. So what does that, so what does 2026 have? Is there any kind of, with the band, obviously you're still slightly as a unit. Do you have any kind of new recordings or anything planned on the
Well,
calendar?
there was quite a while where that wasn't really talked about, and when last year there was a Tim Smith tribute set series of gigs.
Yeah, because was it
Um,
Caboose?
hmm?
Or who was the main person, or one of the main people who was running those?
Oh, well, Carlos wasn't one of the main people. Bick and Joe were running that. Joe from Spratley's Chaps.
Yes.
They were kind of running that show, and I was asked to contribute vocals on a song a few times, and which is really a great honour. So it was at one of the shows in Leeds. I managed to grab Richard and get him to come along, and we both got quite emotional in a fairly nostalgic way. But
Yes.
it's what brought us together in the first place, you know. And there they were playing, and I was part of it.
I would imagine.
It was such a big, momentous occasion, and we were both very emotional about it. And after that gig, I did discuss the possibility with Richard of doing more stuff, and he was very open to that possibility. So it is a possibility, and I'd like it to happen. I'm guessing it'll probably be me that makes it happen,
Yes.
because everyone else just sits on their arse and kind of waits for the phone call, you know.
It's tempting to be that person, isn't it, really? But sometimes you have to be the person who makes the phone
Exactly.
calls.
Otherwise, no, it's not going to get done.
Nothing gets
At
done,
some
no.
point during 2026, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to get in touch with Vanessa, and me and Vanessa together are going to go to Richard and say, "Look, we're making another album, so come on, let's do it."
Yes, well, as time goes by. Did you get the book, the Cardiacs book, by the way, that came out?
I did, yeah. I'm actually in it. I made a small contribution to it.
I was annoyed that I missed buying a copy, and then the publishers folded, and then that was the end of that.
Yeah.
It was so...
I mean, there's copies out there still. You know,
Are there?
I think people got a bit mad and bought a few, so just in case. So they'll seep out, bit by bit.
I hope so. But I dithered so much that it was suddenly, oh God, I didn't realize the company was going to fold and there was no available books left. And yeah, well, I'll just have to wait and see. But I think when I've seen a couple and they were going for such ridiculous money, I thought, well, damn. But you're confident that there'll be more coming out one day and it'll be a bit cheaper.
I should think so. I mean, it can go two ways with things like that, can't it? Because they're kind of limited edition. I mean, it's that Beatles one about the recording the Beatles book.
Yeah.
It's a hardbound. I mean, that's going for ridiculous money now. And I mean, it's only it was 150 when it came out, but it's just like thousands now.
Yeah.
But some things don't do that, and I think that Cardiac's one will be one of them.
Yeah, well, I suppose
It might eventually, but I think there's more books out there than it's not that rare.
No, there you go. So yeah, so theoretically, you should be, well, hopefully making another album next year, 18 months.
Yeah, I'm not going to say for definite, but
No.
I'm guessing that's probably what's going to happen. Because I know Vanessa is, because Vanessa's been working full time and she's a head teacher, so she can't really get time off a lot.
Blimey.
And she's had issues with that in the past. But starting from next March or May or something, she's going 3 days. So, and the reason she's doing it is to free up time on music.
My God, she's done well from being a bass player to a head teacher.
She's done extremely well, but she puts her foot to the grind, or whatever they call it. She just picked herself up because she was it affected her a lot. I didn't know at the time, obviously I didn't see her, but it affected us all in many ways.
Yes.
I think it affected Vanessa very hard, but she picked herself back up and just went, "I'm going to sort my life out," and she really has. More than any of us have.
Blimey. And how do you do you have another hustle or job that you have to sort of balance as well as your life, your music?
Like me personally?
Yes.
No, I think from day one I've always been dedicated to music. Even though I just want to give myself the opportunity to do it. So therefore, I've never actually tied myself down. I've never been tied down yet.
Right.
No, no,
Yes.
I
But
don't.
then but there's kind of the practical things in life, aren't there? Like, I don't know, having to get
Money.
money together. Yes, money, let's face it. So how do you
But
manage
you
to do
learn.
that?
You just learn. I mean, I've been, I've been living like this for a long time, and you kind of learn ways around things, and you learn when to eat and when not to eat, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So you can buy records and what have you. Um, there's ways and means. I mean, if you want a decent guitar, don't go into a shop and buy one. You can get one a lot cheaper somewhere else.
Yes.
You know,
Good point.
there's
And what
options.
about
You know,
yeah,
there's ways of
there's
getting things
ways.
much cheaper.
Well, yes, yes. Well, growing up in the 80s, we had to be slightly sort of careful with money, to say the least.
Yeah.
And what about Richard? Does he sort of have to have a side hustle as well as
Richard does. Richard lives on a boat in Leeds. He's lived on a boat for quite a few years now, since he left Ultrasound, really, basically. It's what he always wanted to do. He bought himself an old kind of barge, a big barge thing. And it was 3 grand, I think he paid for it. And it was an absolute wreck. And he spent the following 5 years or so just doing it up himself. And if he didn't know how to do it, he'd learn.
right?
He did courses in engineering and stuff just so he could learn how to do what he needed to do to make that boat livable in. And it is now. He lives there with his family. So
God, so that yes, he doesn't
he
have
does his side hustle, if you like, is he works for a boating company. Um,
right.
drives boat taxis and also plays bass in a blues band.
Brilliant.
So
It's good.
he's pretty busy. He doesn't have much time because he's got 2 kids as well. So
Yes.
he divvies his time up quite well, really.
Yes. And what happened to Matt Jones? Did he
Matt, oh no, there's a woman he was working with who's a singer songwriter, quite famous. I can't remember her name. The one came just before Sandy Tom. The one before her, I don't know.
no.
I know he's working with her for a while, and I know before that he was in BDI, Liam Gallagher's band.
Right.
He's always kept his hand in. You see, that's what he does. He's a session guy, and he's very good at it. You know, he's a keyboard player for hire.
Yes. That's always handy.
Yeah,
So and was Andy was the original drummer, wasn't he?
yeah.
Is he still playing music?
No, he completely gave up music, possibly because his passion wasn't in music in the first place.
Right.
Me and Richard find that a total tragedy because he really is probably the best drummer we've ever heard. To us, he's up there, with the greats. But he just doesn't want to play anymore. He just doesn't want to do it.
Right.
He's basically, I think he's a handyman, repairs houses and things. That's what he does. As far as I know now, he doesn't talk to me though.
No.
I
Well,
suspect he's got something against me, but I'm just not sure what it is. And I need to get to the bottom of it.
well, I know. I guess more band therapy, really, isn't it?
I know
So
we did spend a long time trying to persuade him to come back into the fold, but he just wasn't having it. So,
yeah, it's so tricky.
but I
So is
think
all
he's happy, and that's the main thing.
well, that's always good. And is all your material now available if one needs it? Is it? Do you have it on Bandcamp or do you have it on?
Um, I think it's all on Bandcamp, yeah, and I think it's all on Spotify. Much to my chagrin, because I don't want it to be on there, but I can't stop it from being on there because I didn't put it on there in the first place.
Right.
I think the Everything Picture album it's kind of owned by one little independent. Um, so I guess it's up to them what they do with it. And I think they put it on Spotify. The Play for Today album, I don't know who put that on Spotify, but it,
Yeah.
it, it is all on there. It's just sometimes quite hard to find.
Yeah, I know it's tricky, isn't it? Really, but are you going to archive all your material, all the sort of bits you've done, and try and sort of put that together as a nice compilation or collection?
Um, I don't know. I mean, there's a couple of live things that might be quite good, just shoved out, sort of free on Bandcamp or something.
Yeah.
Bandcamp Friday or whatever.
Bandcamp Friday, it's got to be done, hasn't it, really? People love it. Did you find when you were playing live at Shine and also the CUD weekends, did you have a enthusiastic fans who came to see the band and sort of, yes.
You get a mixture of people who saw you back in the day and love you, who appreciate the fact that you're playing. You get some people who've never heard of you before but thought it was great, and then some people who didn't realise you were back together again.
Right.
So, that band from the 90s, aren't you? It's like, well, yeah, we're still doing stuff, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, I've got another couple of albums out since then. But really, I'll have to look on Bandcamp and see if I can get it. It's like, it's still telling people that we're back together again after how long we've been together now.
Oh, no.
Longer than we were together in the first place.
Which is strange, really, for a 90s weekender. You've sort of got fans going, well, you're a band from the 90s. You think, no shit, Shylock. Anyway, that's amazing. Well, look, thank you ever so much for your time, and thank you for, saying yes to this, because it's always nice to hear the story of the band. But yes, it's been brilliant. And yeah, thank you for your time. Do you go as Andrew Tiny Wood, by the way?
But yeah, I mean, Andrew Wood's my name, and Tiny is what people know me by, so I guess it's fitting to fit to slip the tiny bit in there, I suppose.
I'll put the tiny bit in there, actually. I'll do that.
Tiny is fine.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you for your time, and it's been brilliant. And I can always send you a link if you ever want to use it on any of your social media platform sites. I think you're on TikTok now as well, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. You see, that's something that whenever we do a gig, Vanessa always gets really excited. Like, oh, I've got to do more, because she loved it. And she always does that. Every time we've come back from a gig, she starts getting really kind of like hands-on with kind of the socials. Right, we're gonna get a TikTok. It'd be great. So she recently got us on TikTok, and I don't really do that, so I have no idea.
Yes. I guess, yeah, it's nice that everyone still wants to play music and sort of, practice, rehearse. Does it all, when you sort of do a rehearsal, does it all come back together quite smoothly?
Yeah, it's usually okay. We can often get by with really not having one, really. Although we would be more sloppy if we didn't.
Yes.
Rehearse for the Shine one because we just couldn't find a way to get back together again. We'd recently done with the Cuds gig, so we just thought we'd rehearse once for both, if you like.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to be on the safe side, it's better to rehearse, but we can nip through the stuff pretty well. Obviously, if we're doing something we haven't done before for a while, or it's a new song, it takes more. But
Yes. There you go. Well, look, I'll let you go, but thank you ever so much for your time. And yes, have a merry midwinter. I'll check out your sort of solstice song now.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, cheers.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that, dear listener, is the end of the interview. Massive thank you to Andrew Tiny Wood for giving me the time for that. This has been the C86 show, David Eastaugh. If you want to contact me, you can on any of the social media platform sites. Just do C86 show. All these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. It's true. And yes, have a great week. Stay safe.